Hey everyone, my name is Yarrow and you're listening to the Daydreaming Wolves podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for the probably last episode of 2020. I wanted to talk about letting it be good enough, or just generally letting it be enough. It's been such an intense year, and I think a lot of people are asking themselves going into the holidays right now, have I done enough? Have I learned enough? Have I picked up enough hobbies? Have I been there for my friends in good enough ways? So yeah, I want to explore that. Before I do, a few announcements. Today is my last day. I'm taking 3 weeks and 3 days off. Whew, this has been a long time in the making. I feel like I've been planning for this time off for many weeks now, months even, and it's feeling really important and really beautiful, and I really feel super lucky and privileged that I get to do this. And I don't even have any private plans, I don't have a long reading list or anything in particular that I want to do around my house or anything. I just really want a ton of unstructured time and to be able to just sleep whenever I want to and make nice food for myself and go on long walks and just rest and digest this year. So you might not be hearing much from me. And I did say I would like to record a 3-part mini audio course for this podcast that will go up here rather than be a thing that you can buy. So it will be free for everyone as a way to say thank you to all my patrons. And I will do that. I'm just not sure if I'm going to do it over the holidays or in the new year. But either way, I'll be here and free, and it will be a way also to celebrate that we're getting to 100 episodes, which is incredible. 5 years, 100 episodes, many more to come. Thank you so much for all your support, for leaving reviews and telling a friend and becoming a patron and participating in my programs. That really means so much to me, and I think this year especially it was so supportive, and I really felt the love and the support every day. So thank you so much. Another small announcement is that the Embodied Business community is opening 15 spots on January 13th. And if you're interested in that, you can get on the waitlist at yarrowdigital.com. So that's a year-long small business program for people who value slowness and embodiment and truth and want to be in community. And yeah, we're having a lot of fun. It's been going for almost 3 years now, and I'm excited to welcome some more people in. My prints have sold out, which I'm, to be honest, a bit proud of. I've started a new printmaking practice this year, and what I love about that so much is that I can finally offer something physical that I can send out to the world. It's been something that I wanted to do for a long time, but it's been logistically hard until I settled here in Scotland, and now that I have more space, I can handle having stock and, all the logistics of that. And it's such a joy to wrap things up and write little notes and then go to the post box. I don't go into the post office. Luckily, we have these boxes outside that you can just go and drop stuff into. So that's really cool, and I'm so grateful for your support. They're not perfect, I am very much just apprenticing in this work at the moment, and it's such a joy. I really, really love just sitting down and carving and being in this quiet space. Sometimes I listen to some music or a podcast and I just carve what comes to mind, and I think of them as little spells that you can put on your walls. And it also feels really nice with my hand press. I can make something handmade that's, not just coming out of a computer. And I can post it to people, but I don't have to ask for very high prices because it is a print, it's not an original that I paint each time. The printmaking process is really beautiful and embodied, but I can make several pieces out of one design, which is cool. Yeah, so let's dive into letting it be enough. That's really been on my mind so much the last 3 weeks, because obviously as 2020 comes to an end, there's so many things that I could still be doing or that could have been better. I wish, for example, I had already recorded this audio series that I just mentioned, and I wish I had kind of had more foresight around the Christmas markets that have been online this year, because then I could have been part of that with my printmaking practice, or Oh God, these are just one of so many examples. I wish I had had more time to write Christmas cards or, um, yeah, but here we are. It's time to rest, and I really want to invite myself into being with the season. It's deep winter in the Northern Hemisphere. The winter solstice is coming up, astrologically a really special event. It means the world to me to see the light return the day after and to really remember that spring is coming, even if it's still pretty far away. That's something that, yeah, really gives me hope at the moment. And so I don't want to go through that time of rest and the light returning feeling that I haven't been good enough or that there could have been other things that I could have done differently. So I want all of us to be invited into the space of just seeing what it would be like to let ourselves off the hook. It's been a really, really difficult year, and I know all of us have something on our minds and hearts that could have been different, but what if we just let it go now? Because we probably can't change it retrospectively anyway, and we can, however, be more present with what is available to us now in this holiday season. I also feel that we have learned so much this year, whether we can tangibly say what that is right now or whether we feel proud or not, but we have definitely all learned that we are stronger than we thought that we were. We have learned that we are incredibly adaptable and creative in how we are adjusting to a crisis. We have learned so much about what we need, which is each other and body contact and being in the same space and having the freedom to travel. And I know this is kind of like a hippy dippy thing to say, but there's, as much as I'm grieving for what I've lost and what I'm really missing right now, I'm also so excited for the time where these things will return and we'll embrace them with a new consciousness of how valuable they are. And I think that's going to feel so amazing. I also think that we have been invited into considering who we are without all these different things that have made up our identities, right? Like, who are we without going into an office every day? Or who are we without Instagram when we're taking breaks? Who are we without dinner parties socially? How do we show up for people and how do we want them to show up for us? And I think for me, it's been a real challenge sometimes to not try to fill the void right away. In March, April, for example, so many free online offerings popped up everywhere, and I offered something as well. I did grief circles, and I loved them. And it felt right at the time, but then there also came this moment of like, oh wow, this is way too much. And yes, I'm inside all the time, but I don't actually want to fill up this space that I now have immediately with all this stuff, with this digital clutter, because we have so many big questions to answer, right? About how we're moving forward, how we're treating the planet, how we're organizing ourselves, how we relate to our own and other people's power in our homes, but also in these really big political structures. And I think those questions need time, and they need us to have a clear head and not be busy all the time. And busyness is so interesting as well, isn't it? Like I think some of us still struggle with the slowness of this year quite a bit. I spoke to my grandparents the other day, and we were talking about hobbies, and I told my grandmother that I was making these prints for her this Christmas, and I asked her if she had been knitting or doing anything that felt joyful to her, and she said, no, I'm so busy. And I was like, wow, we are in a pandemic. You are retired in a pandemic, and you're too busy to do something that gives you joy. And that's not about my grandmother, obviously, that's all of us in some ways. We have internalized this idea that it's cool to be busy, and it's so obvious in a way how much bullshit that is. And yet, we can say that and say that we're living slowly and cyclically, but it just, in a almost joyful way, surprised me this year to see play out how hard it actually is to live that in myself and others. So just kind of leaning back and and witnessing that and trying to have humor about it, I guess. But yeah, what does it mean to not fill the void right away? And especially this holiday season, most of us are probably staying home. We're not going to see our families or have any kind of big party. So what does it mean to be with ourselves? And does that feel good to look in the mirror in this way without distractions? And I know for me, I think self-confidence has been an issue sometimes this year, because I think if we don't experience ourselves outside in the world, kind of bouncing against other people and getting a sense of ourselves in that way, it kind of feels weird. I had definitely had periods where I just felt like this blob that was neutral and really unspecific. I didn't feel my edges anymore. And that was impacting my confidence in some way, because I didn't feel myself every day, I do feel myself now, but definitely had these periods of feeling like, who am I? What am I doing? And then how does that translate into really being with myself? And that feels like it's getting easier, and I'm really grateful to witness that. I also think that this is such a beautiful opportunity to let Christmas be good enough, or let any holiday that you're celebrating be good enough. I know there's a lot of disappointment, and I certainly am disappointed that I'm not seeing my friends or going home for Christmas. But it also allows me to think about what I actually really like about Christmas and what I want from it in the future. And it's not what I had in the past, surprisingly, and I think that's true for so many things. We don't have them right now. We get to ask what we really want when they're coming back, and surprisingly the answer is not the version of autopilot that we've had in the past in many cases. So that feels curious to me. And I think also social media is another area in which I'm really asking what is enough, and like, can I just let it be good enough for now? It's weird. I had deactivated my Instagram account about a week ago because I just really wanted a complete break, and I knew I had nothing to say particularly exciting or insightful for the new year, for example. And there's always so much pressure when you're a small business owner and you have an Instagram account, like on the 31st or the 1st of January, to say something really profound that people are going to share, and then everything is going to be great. But I knew I wouldn't feel like that this year, and so I just wanted to kind of completely step away. And I also didn't want to receive messages that would go unanswered if I wouldn't log in for a few weeks, because I don't know, that would feel weird. So I deactivated my account, but then I remembered that someone had given me their address, a friend of mine, and I wanted to send her a card, so I had to log back in to get this address out of my inbox. And then I didn't know that you can only deactivate once a week, so now I'm blocked from doing that again. And it's been 8 days now, but for some reason Instagram is still not letting me deactivate again. So it's a bit annoying. It really is. Because I would like to let what I've shared this year on Instagram be enough as well. This is almost the end of what I have to say. I know this is kind of a weird ramble again, but I really hope that listening to my reflections has helped you maybe feel into what you're letting be good enough for now, and just making more space for rest for yourself this winter. One thing I will say about the podcast next year is that I'm really excited to work with Emily Crosby to make it better. And that's a big exercise also just for now, and letting it be good enough, because even though I have been podcasting for 5 years, there's so much technical stuff that I didn't know about. For example, being on Podbean is probably better for me. I've been on SoundCloud, which is a music platform, and it's really not made for podcast. And then there's so much in the metadata that I can do. There's so much in the sound quality that I can improve. And so I'm really excited to work with Emily to make this podcast better. And when we had our first session, she's been so kind and really insightful and wonderful. And I really was just so excited about her guidance. And so there was also this moment of feeling shame almost, that I've been podcasting for 5 years without knowing about this technical stuff and not really making time to look into it. But that was good to remember, because we had a lot of fun here, right? Like, we're getting to 100 episodes here. I've shared so many conversations and stories and ideas with people, and I received so much love and support in return, and I just love that so much. And I think the reason that I have done many different things in my business, like having another podcast, the DIY Small Business one, and having written my book Rituals this year, is that I'm really not a perfectionist, and I have allowed myself to just do what feels right in the moment, and letting that be good enough. And so at the core, I want to stay true to that practice, but I'm also inviting in some support right now to refine things, and I'm excited to share the first few episodes in a better sound quality with you soon. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'll end also by saying thank you so much again for listening this year. It really means the world to me. If you want to leave a review, that would be really wonderful. It makes a massive difference. So any platform that you're listening to, subscribe, leave a review. If you want to take part in my programs and get digital copies of my books and zines and recordings, become a patron at every level. You can also join the weekly creative space sessions on Saturdays. They're still going strong and I love them. And I'm sure there will be many more things next year to enjoy for patrons, but for now, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.